If you spent your whole life quietly believing you're the slow one in the room. If you read the page 3 times and it still won't stick. If the thing everyone else seemed to grasp in a single explanation took you a week of struggle, and somewhere underneath it all you've concluded you're just not very bright. I want you to sit with a different idea for a few minutes. You're not stupid. You're untranslated. The way your mind actually works has never once been spoken in its own language, and you've spent years failing a test that was written for a brain that isn't yours. Here's the thing about that word, stupid. We hand it out like it describes some fixed, measurable thing. A single dial inside you turned low. But that's not how the mind works, and deep down I think you already suspect it. Because you know the things you're good at. You know the friend who comes to you when nothing else makes sense, because somehow you always find the words. You know the way you can take something broken apart in your hands and just feel where the pieces go. You know the music, or the people, or the patterns that light up effortlessly in you, while a page of instructions leaves you cold. That's not the profile of a stupid person. That's the profile of a person whose particular kind of intelligence was never the kind being graded. There's a Harvard psychologist named Howard Gardner who spent his career taking that ordinary word, intelligence, and breaking it open. For most of modern history, we measured it as one thing. A single number, a single ladder, and you were somewhere on it, high or low. Gardner looked at that and said it was far too small a story. He proposed what he called multiple intelligences. That the mind isn't one engine, but many. There's the word and logic, intelligence, that schools obsess over, yes. But there's also a spatial intelligence, a bodily intelligence that lives in the hands and the muscles, a musical intelligence, an interpersonal intelligence for reading people, an intrapersonal one for reading yourself, even an intelligence tuned to the living world. Different minds run hot in different chambers, and almost everything we use to decide who's smart measures only one or two of them. Think about what that actually means for you. If the entire system you were judged by, the classroom, the tests, the reports sent home, was built to measure 2 narrow channels, and your genius happens to live in a different one entirely, then you didn't fail intelligence. You just got measured in a language you don't speak. Imagine handing a brilliant pianist a maths exam and concluding, from the score, that she has no gift. That's not an assessment of her. It's an assessment of the wrong thing, aimed at the wrong door. Let me tell you about someone. I'll call him Daniel. Daniel grew up certain he was the dumb one in his family. His sister read at 4. He was still stumbling over sentences at 9. Teachers were patient, and then they were tired. Report cards used the same gentle, devastating phrases year after year. Tries hard, struggles to keep up. By the time he was a teenager, he'd stopped trying to be smart and started trying to be invisible, because invisible hurt less than failing in front of everyone. But there was one place Daniel came alive. Engines. Anything mechanical. He'd take apart a lawnmower and have it running better than new, no manual. Just his hands and a kind of knowing that lived below words. The adults around him called it a hobby. A nice little knack. Nobody called it intelligence because it didn't show up on a page. And Daniel, hearing it called a hobby, believed them. Believed the real, valuable smartness was the kind that lived in books. The kind he didn't have. He carried that quiet verdict about himself for 20 years. What finally turned for Daniel wasn't that he got smarter. He didn't change at all. What changed was the frame. He met a mentor who watched him work for 10 minutes, then said something nobody had ever said to him. You realize this is one of the highest forms of spatial and mechanical reasoning there is. Most people couldn't do what you just did in 100 years. Daniel told me he had to leave the room, because for the first time in his life, the thing he was good at had been given the word he'd been denied his whole life. Intelligence. He wasn't translated wrong, he'd just never been translated at all. So if you've been carrying that verdict about yourself, here are a few things I want you to hold on to. First, the feeling of being stupid is almost always the feeling of being measured in the wrong language. When you struggle with something, your mind doesn't whisper, "This particular channel isn't my strongest." It shouts the global verdict. I'm stupid, but struggle in one chamber tells you nothing about the others. The reader who can't fix a tap is not stupid. The mechanic who can't sit through a novel is not stupid. They're each fluent in a tongue the other never learned. Notice which language you actually think in, and stop grading yourself in the one you don't. Second, find your chamber and stand in it. Everyone has a domain where the world goes quiet and the work feels like breathing, where you grasp things others find hard, almost without effort. That's not a hobby. That's the room where your intelligence lives in its native tongue. Most people spend their lives apologizing for the rooms they're weak in and never once move into the room where they're strong. Don't do that with your one life. Build where you're fluent. Third, The goal was never to be smart at everything. That's a myth, and it's a cruel one. Nobody runs hot in every chamber. Not Gardner, not Einstein, not anyone. The whole human project depends on different minds being brilliant at different things and then needing each other. Your gaps aren't proof of stupidity. They're the spaces other people were built to fill, exactly as your gifts fill theirs. Albert Einstein, a man no one would call stupid, though he failed plenty of exams and was thought slow as a boy, is remembered for saying that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. He understood it from the inside. The fish isn't broken. The river is full of things. It does better than anything else alive. It was simply being asked, over and over, to be a creature it was never meant to be, and mistaking the failure for a fact about itself. That's what's happened to you. You were handed a tree and told to climb, and when you couldn't, you believed the worst thing about yourself. But you were never stupid. You were a whole intelligence, spoken in a language the test couldn't read, so stop trying to climb the tree that was never yours. Go find your river, and learn, finally, to read yourself in the tongue you were actually written in.